mention her like on the radio or something. So it's funny. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. And it's
Wow.
so simple. It's like such a simple name, and like people want to throw an N in there, Eisner. Uh, yeah, it happened. It's happened since I was in like first grade, man. They just want to throw letters that don't exist in there. They want is it Iser? Does that sound like a Z? Oh my goodness. I soar. No, is that's an E? I mean, it's clearly defined pronunciation based on
Yeah.
the English language. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. It is what it is. I don't take offense. Hey, you, I'll answer. At this point, I've got 4 kids, so
Yeah.
yeah. I'm used to
That's good.
somebody just yelling and I'm paying attention, right?
Yeah, that's probably for me.
Uh,
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks anybody for tuning in to WP Roundtable episode 170. My name's Kyle, and I work at Sandhills Development doing stuff with WordPress plugins every day. And I'm joined today by Daniel Iser. How you doing, Daniel?
Doing good. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm pretty fine this wonderful Monday. Just burning up a little bit here in Michigan.
Uh,
Weather over 90 degrees is tough, man.
yeah. Do you guys have the humidity like we do here in Florida? It's 90 plus here, but it's just I gotta guess I have air conditioning right here on top of me, so that's probably a benefit.
Right. It feels pretty humid. I don't.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable.
No, to say the least. Yeah, it's Florida for you too. So
Sure.
welcome to Florida, I guess.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about your background, Daniel, and all the cool things that you're into, running your plugin businesses and stuff. First, we're going to share our quick picks of the week, and I had one saved, and then I kind of lost it. Oh, this is what it was. I really enjoyed Mark Benzikine's blog post on serverpress.com recently. So Mark is one of the partners at a company called ServerPress. They have a product called Desktop
Desktop.
Server,
Yep.
and he wrote this long post, which was very like transparent and honest and self-critical, like all the mistakes that they made and the reasons behind the delay in shipping some notable releases, in particular their 4.0 release, which has been talked about for now several years,
Yep.
but still not shipped. And so he had a lot to say about that, and the story is kind of funny and interesting, and sad at the same time. As somebody who works at a product company, like I understand what that's like.
Yeah.
So I recommend the post. It's really good. Anybody like getting
Check that out.
into software dev, anybody running a product company like this, you can plan all you want and you can build out these features and that you want to build
Oh.
and just roadmap the future. But sometimes your hands get tied.
No.
You know,
Yep. That's it happens all the time. I like to say, my best played plans are when God's laughing at you the most. Yeah.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. You got any quick pick to share with us, Daniel?
You put me on the spot. I don't. It is only Monday, so I haven't even really checked email this week. I don't know. I've been keeping up with, I guess, the Gutenberg stuff, and I do like where it's going. I hate seeing. I did read a few pieces that touched on where how that's gonna interface with sites who. I'll have to pull up the article. Maybe I can find it real quick. And her premise was basically, I've been developing websites for customers for 10 years. I can't expect that they're all going to come back to me all of a sudden and pay me more, you know, for something that I told them 10 years ago is going to always be safe and reliable when Gutenberg hits and if it possibly breaks something. Nor are they going to pay me to go in and install this backwards compatibility layer on all of their sites. That's just not going
True.
to happen.
Right.
So, from that perspective, I can definitely see the negatives, and I think there's a long way to go, but I definitely see the positives of it. I hope they get all those things worked out and really start taking the feedback seriously. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch it or attend, of course, but Matt Mullenweg talked a lot about a variety of things. Gutenberg largely. I read the recap at WordCamp Europe. He keynoted there. And also announced that WordCamp US is going to be in St. Louis the next couple of
2 years,
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun. Tennessee again this year, right? And then
Yeah.
yeah,
That's right.
that's all right. One more year to get some more hot chicken.
Yeah. And
Good,
then we'll
good
get
stuff.
whatever St. Louis has. I've never been there.
They're barbecue as well, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt's gonna pick all the barbecue cities first, and then he'll rotate to others. So
Yeah. Super great. All right. Well, I'm excited about that, and we'll probably get a chance to hang out there, I'd imagine.
yeah, I'm not gonna miss US again. That's I missed the first one, and I've been to every one since, and it's mind blowing experience for a nominal amount of money.
Yeah.
I wish there were more conferences outside of the WordPress sphere that they could use that model, that low cost model. I mean, I'd love to go to some of these conferences that are $1,000 a ticket, but you know, it's just not feasible every day. So
I know, it's true. Yeah,
yeah,
that's absolutely the case. I've gotten to go to a couple new ones this year that were pretty special, and I can absolutely tell the difference between a conference
yep.
that costs a lot of money, but I've been surprised at the amount of value that I end up taking home being quite
Oh
comparable.
yeah. I mean, the gift bags and the quality of the free stuff. I mean, the swag that you get is on par or beyond what you get at a WordCamp generally. But
That's for
you know,
sure.
for me, I don't go to WordCamps to learn, if that makes sense. I go to network and to mingle and to, you know, not just self promote, but to see who else is out there and what else I could be
Mm,
doing with other people. I go for the networking, and so I mean,
so do I.
thousand
So do I.
dollars on $1,000 on a networking ticket seems a little steep, you know, when that doesn't even include airfare and stuff. So
Yeah. You're so right. You're so right.
yeah,
Especially when
yeah,
at the end of the day, I look around and I see so much of the money is going into things that really don't deliver a whole lot of value to me. It's a lot of the shine and sizzle of the event, the production value. You know,
yeah.
this stage is a lot nicer with the
Yeah,
lighting
and
and the music and the speakers and all. I
they
don't know.
pay an exorbitant amount for the food just because it's all, you know, from a prestigious, you know, venue. And yeah, I mean, give me a coupon, let me go get my own local beverage and food, and I would be 10 times happier. In all honesty, that's my favorite part of travel is food. You know, going and experiencing the local. I don't know what the right word is. The local food flavors. So.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I don't even pick things off the menu at this point. I mean, when we travel, my wife, she doesn't even hand me the menu. I just ask the waiter, "What's everybody's favorite thing here?" And give me that. You know. So unless it just sounds terrible, right? But that's happened
Right.
a few times.
Sure. Sure. But that sounds like a fun practice and a good habit I like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. And let's talk about your background real quick.
Yeah.
Let's start there and figure out the story. Like, I don't know the full story. I only know like a few anecdotes, but I want to know like let's if we could use a good starting point as like when you started to plot out a career for yourself when you were young. You started to like have some ambition and think this is I think the direction I want to go, and I'm taking my first step on a path for my adult.
When I wrote a paper in my senior year and told myself that in 20 years I saw myself on the Forbes 400 list, which seems
All
awful
right.
ambitious. Seems awful ambitious that now. What's worse is I kind of I guess slacked off for 5 to 7 years after that. I went to did some college, worked locally at a restaurant, got in the habit of just going to work and getting a paycheck and playing video games, whatever was fun. I see the Rockstar shirt on there. Uh, and you know, I found myself in that, and then I ended up working for a band, being a tour roadie for a heavy metal band. Not really, some of you probably know, Job for a Cowboy, but they travel with some really cool people. And then that turned into a second tour. I was driving the equipment truck, which was a terrible job, great money. Um, you driving basically my night owl syndrome played in good part there because I'd basically sleep until 2:30 in the morning, get up, pick up the truck, drive it until 10 a.m. the next morning, and then if I didn't find a casino right nearby, I'd go to sleep. Damn those card tables, but when I got back from that between tours, I was offered to come do some computer work for a local person. I was like, it doesn't sound like I want to do that. And they're like $35 an hour. I was like, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
I did that for about 6 months a year and had a client say, hey, can you do a website for us? Sure. Charged them like $1,000 to do like this huge thing that was probably worth 10,000. And worked my way up through web development from there. Found more money in that than on the computer repair side. Uh, that kind of led to developing a free plugin, Easy Modal, out of our own necessity for our clients' needs. I was like, man, I got to do this over and over again. It's just let's see what this plugin development thing is about, and release that, and put up a little paid version for some extra features like exit intent before it was trademarked. Um, and that slowly took off. We went through maybe 2 or 3 years of struggling trying to build web clients, and in a poor rural area. We're literally like one of the poorest counties in our state. I think 66 out of 67. So there's not a lot of money here in the businesses to invest. You go to somebody with a $500 WooCommerce site, and they're like, let me think about it. And you're like,
Yeah.
jump on that, man. Jump on that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
that's rough.
right.
That's rough.
So we were, made $300 one month off the paid plugin that I wasn't even messing with. We were just sitting there and kind of looked at each other and said, what if we just spent all of our time doing that, right? And 6 months later, Pop Up Maker was created. We kind of realized that Modal, we were the number one result for that. There was nowhere to really go up from, maybe put
Mhm.
some more features in. So we took all the feedback from like 3 or 4 years, combed all the tickets, took everything that everybody loved and hated about it, and basically roadmapped an entirely new product that, you know, fit all of those needs that we couldn't fit with the previous one. And that's where Pop Up Maker was born. I think it had 10,000 active installs in 4 or 5 months, which was insane. Um, and it basically set the course for the next 5 years now. So that's led to partnerships with Pippin to do little EDD extensions, and partnerships with Kayla Mallison from Ultimate Member, to partner on a whole slew of community driven and marketing plugins. Ahoy being the flagship one lately. Um, so yeah, man, it's been a fun ride.
Wow.
I definitely say anybody who's on that boat of struggling to find money every month should look at something that's maybe slightly in the same niche but slightly different.
Hmm.
There's not always. My wife watched, uh, subscribed to this photography kind of membership thing online for learning how to mentor, like a kind of a mentorship, and all of the practices and principles, man, she memorized them after a year or so. And it basically, every time somebody would say, well, this, I tried this and it's just not working. And they'd say, well, have you tried to implement all of the principles, not just that one? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe not. And my wife legitimately has tried all of those things. But in our place, we've heard excuses. Just to give you an idea of the county we live in, we've heard excuses from, well, I have to fix my teeth before I don't have the money to do both, so I have to fix my teeth before I can get photography done, right?
Right.
And it's not because they want to look pretty for their photography; it's because they can't afford to do both.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the situation here. So we realized that probably wasn't going to succeed on that merit, and we had to revamp how we structured her business. It wasn't going to succeed on the merits of what she learned that everybody else could succeed in a big city with. It just wasn't going to work here. So it's not everything that you learn online is going to work for everybody. You have to play your market, right? So
Yeah. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a good kind of takeaway. What did you study in college?
Mostly business. I
Yeah.
wish I'd have paid a lot more attention. I probably would have. I mean, I took the classes. I did the tests. I'm a really good test taker. I'm a terrible person for homework. Um, Back then, I'm probably a lot better at it now because I actually want to pay attention and succeed. If that makes sense. I took the
Yeah.
college during those 5 lag years of not really giving a crap.
Yeah.
Um, Wish I wouldn't have. I definitely found my letter 10 years later for the Forbes list and was like, oh, I'm pretty far behind on this. But I formulated it out though, and came up with a plan 5 years ago and 3 years ago. And if I, for the next 20 years, double my income every year, or double my revenue for every year, not necessarily my income, I will make the Forbes 400 list. And we've actually probably more than doubled it every year for the last 3 years. Now, if that's sustainable, we'll see. Um,
Yeah. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see. But get all some of those great tools from Pippin, recurring revenue, and stuff like that are going to help pave the way there. So appreciate everything you guys have done over there. That's especially just forging the path of what's normalized now. It's normal to not grandfather in subscription, or to provide renewal discounts. It's normal now to do an annual automated subscription renewal. I mean
Right.
that takes a lot of the pressure off the rest of us. So much appreciation in that front for you guys.
Uh, yeah. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not the first to do any of those things, but
No,
uh,
I mean, Easy Modal actually had a pretty awesome, really nice Stripe integration that I built from the ground up before I found EDD, and then I was just like, why maintain all of this myself?
yeah,
Because then I have to maintain the plugin and my own cart, right? That's just yeah, but it was pretty nice. You pop up in a modal, right? I mean, you
yeah,
click the button, it pop up in a modal. There's a credit card form right there. You plug it in, it would like do some loading, and then it would immediately come back with your license key number and a link to download the pro version. Yeah, it was. Oh yeah, it was like all in one modal window. It's pretty sweet.
that is
But
slick.
yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah,
Maybe one day I'll compete with Pippin, but I'm not. Nah, I like Pippin stuff too much, so
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well,
got me on the bandwagon.
good. Well, I think pretty highly of a lot of your stuff. I want to understand better. Break down, if you can, a little more about your product catalog and what these specific products do. Because there's a few things in your portfolio here.
Yeah, and some of them are even a little similar. I've had to explain that one a few times recently. So Pop-Up Maker, obviously the bread and butter, is anything you need to create an overlay for, whether it's a slide in on the right, if you want to slide a whole menu from the top, if you want to pop up a contact form, exit intent, marketing, subscription stuff, pretty much anything you can overlay. We have Ajax login stuff, age verification, so that you can block out page views until they, verify their age. So pretty much anything you can think of that would overlay on top of your website, that plugin's built to handle it. It's very extensive. It's very feature rich, almost too much so, which was a lesson learned. Not so much giving away too many free features, but loading in so many options and not choices, if that makes sense.
Right.
Right. I mean, instead of giving users so many tweaks to change, basically, I mean, I basically gave them options to tweak the code, right? Whereas I should have predefined paths. And that's something we're moving towards with Pop-Up Maker now is like, what kind of thing do you want to create? And then it kind of presets a lot of stuff behind the scenes so they don't actually have to tinker with most of that. They get what they want without the hassle.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. That's one of those things that's really hard to like.
you can't predict it in
It's
the
hard to
version one.
predict. Like you're like obviously at a point now where you really understand your users and what
Yeah.
these paths are. Everybody's coming and they're trying to do one of these 5 or 15 things, however many
Yeah.
it is.
Thousands and thousands of tickets. That's how you learn these things.
Yeah, we're in the same boat.
uh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
so you can do anything with it, and then discover years later that it really comes down to like these 8 categories.
And you're gonna find you feel like everything's open and there's no limitations on it, and then you find users who hit those roadblocks, and you're like, oh, well, we're gonna roadmap that in a few versions from now, right? So
Sure.
you make plans to get it in there. It just sometimes it's just not a simple change. Sometimes it requires a complete restructuring.
Mm.
And we have done that quite a few times with Pop-Up Maker, and that's never fun. Especially when you test the most recent version, and this is anecdotal at best, but uh, we tested, we built internally for 6 months, which normally we're on a 3 month cycle for Pop-Up Maker. So this is already a massive update compared to everything else. But we built in a completely new the form JavaScript API, so we can build our forms from PHP, pass them to JavaScript, and it throws up a form. It's really customizable, handles form dependencies. So that was like a month of time right there just building that. But we now use that to render all of our meta boxes, our
Mm.
general global settings page, our short code builder on the fly. It's used to render several other interfaces on the fly, and most likely when we move to front end editing, which is our goal now, is to move the whole thing to where you can actually view and edit the pop ups in real time on the front end. That's going to come in handy because we can just basically load up and render forms on the fly right there, based on what they click on. They want to customize the close button. You click on the close button, boop, here comes a pop-up form or a little form to the side. So, I mean, we're moving that direction to support page builders and everything else like that. So that was one big change. The other one was we upgraded your guys' batch processor to work all in one admin notice. So basically, it pops up on every page, and if they click the button, it runs through the entire loop right there. It gives them all their notifications. They never have to leave the page, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Right. So that was pretty nifty, and that took a lot of time. So needless to say, we needed a lot of testing. We did 4 beta announcements over the course of. We did a month of internal testing with all of our own extensions and all of our code snippets that we had previously released. to make sure everything worked backwards compatible, and that all seemed fine. And then we did a public beta and had 500 or 600 downloads, which I felt was pretty substantially sized number of beta downloads. Got issues reported for the first 2 weeks. Released an XRC for it, and didn't hear anything else for 2 months. We left it open beta for 2 months, and then finally just said, "Yeah, all right, well, it's time to do it," and released it. You know, even edge cases, when you're talking about a plugin that has 200 or 300,000 websites using it, edge cases make up thousands of websites.
Yeah.
And, there were some edge cases that did not show up in testing, and they cost us a lot of time. So, normally where we've never had a point release over like 0.13, I think we're at like 1.7, 0.29.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I mean, I'm an avid believer of monitoring for the first 24 hours after a release, and every time you see a ticket, push a patch, right? Because that's 10 people less that are going to end up getting affected by that and having to report it or update again.
Yep.
So I do, I do hate the idea of update fatigue, but in those early stages of a brand new release, I think updates every hour is feasible. It's not going to hurt somebody, if that makes sense. So
Mm.
we try to monitor and do that, and we catch as many as possible. But man, they just keep slipping through. So I think the lesson learned there was we started a Facebook group, and everybody who's complained about the bugs, I've made sure to correct and say, hey, we have all of these methods to get beta testers involved. We release publicly everywhere. We put a notice in the admin of the plugin. We can't test beyond that. Some of this responsibility does fall on the individual users to test with their own systems. So and we ended up opening a Facebook group, and I think in 2 months we've got over 500 members in there already. So and I've heard that once you hit 500, it kind of just blows up from there on its own.
Mm.
We're to the point now where users are constantly answering each other's questions now, which is okay. I should have started that years ago.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing there was to make sure that we put notice everywhere that we have a Facebook group now. We have a Facebook group now. It's like the number one option when you get to our support page form. It's like right above the form. If you need immediate assistance, or if you want assistance like more in a live chat form, why don't you try our Facebook page? It's in the bottom of all our support ticket emails. So
Nice.
we're pushing them all there as fast as possible. And it's really, I think it's taken off because I only get tagged on a ticket now, and I have nobody managing it. I just go add people every day, and I've got 4 or 5 people in here constantly answering tickets, and I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Before I even get there, there's 4 or 5 people who have tagged in and said, hey, I think it's this. Hey, have you tried that? And it's like, yeah, those are all the things I was going to say. So right on. I'm actually looking forward to maybe reaching out to a few of them soon here and trying to hire some support people, which would be nice.
Oh, that's super cool. There you
Yeah.
go. Talk about scalability. That's the next step.
Yeah. Start them out as moderators in there, and move them up to doing tickets and help scout. So.
Right on. All right. So we got Pop-Up Maker. What else is in your catalog?
We did. I've got one called Recipe Manager. This one's actually, I love this plugin just from what I've developed into it, but it has no following. It's got like 30 active installs, and probably because I haven't done anything with it since I pushed it out. But I pushed it out to get it out there. I wanted people to be able to play with it if they wanted to, or to build on it, or to take it over if they wanted to. And the funny part is I actually have 9 premium add-ons already developed for this thing, and I haven't even had time to set up a store and like get it started. So yeah, I've got some side projects that I put a lot of time into, and that one's got some really nice UI. I spent a lot of time making it so that an everyday recipe, somebody who's using it every day, can go in there and use all the keyboard shortcuts they're used to build recipes on the fly. So that's a little tiny one. I guess Easy Modal, even though I've tried to kill it several times, is still growing. Actually, the entire README on the WordPress.org plugin page says, "Do not use this. Use Pop-Up Maker," and links off to it. And
Yeah.
it's grown from 20,000 to almost 40,000 active installs in the last 2 years. So people don't listen.
Holy
Um,
moly. Huh.
yeah. And then got together with Caleb Allison, and we've done. Who developed or he's one of the founding members of Ultimate Member, and I believe just bought out his partner, so he's now the only owner. We did quite a few for communities. One of them is really cool. It's called User Menus. I suggest anybody who has a website that deals with logged in users at some point is going to want to check this one out. It allows you to do all the fun stuff like inserting the user's name inside of a menu item. So like you can say "Hello Daniel" on the menu.
Mhm.
You can do the login or log out menu links. So when they're logged in, they see a log, or when they're logged out, they see a login menu link. When they're logged out, they see a log. You get it. It's backwards there, I think. And then it has controls to be able to show and hide different menus or sub menus based on user role, stuff like that. Also insert avatars and stuff like that. But any website who has menu or user focus, so BB Press, Buddy Press, any membership sites, anything that's a storefront that expects return users, anybody in those niches can benefit from this one, and it's free. And honestly, it's probably my best polished plugin to date. Um, Other than adding avatars shortly after we released it, which was something we already wanted to do anyway, the ability to short insert an avatar in the menu. We haven't had to update it at all. 110 5-star reviews, no other reviews. Maybe one support request every 3 months, and it's usually, hey, how do I tweak this, or it's not working with my thing, and then it's usually we have to educate them that their other thing is the problem. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, so yeah, that's been a dream plugin. I wish we could monetize that, but I think we honestly put everything you needed into it in the first place. So there's no real where to go up. Nobody's even requested a feature at this point. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of a bummer, right?
Yeah.
It's very much like my EDD donations extension. I guess we nailed that one on the first go too, because it was on EDD's marketplace for 2 years. Never got one like bug report, never got one feature request. That's kind of a bummer as a plugin developer. You want some kind of validation or feedback.
Yeah.
It's something negative. There's got to be something in there you don't like about it. But no, we nailed that one. Another one was called Content Control. Kind of a restrict content plugin, but not really in the membership or lock down the whole site format that like Restrict Content Pro and stuff is based around. This was more of I want to lock down like certain blocks based on user roles or whether they're logged in or not. So it's you can lock down specific pages, but it's more about mass control rather than individual control, if that makes sense. To give you an example, is rather than like RCP is you can block pages by a parent page or whatever, or on individual level. Whereas this one, all of the targeting of what gets blocked is done in one interface. And you've used the pop-up maker conditions interface before, correct? The Boolean and or okay, well you want to check that out because actually you guys can probably find a couple uses for that. But basically, if you've used the Help Scout workflow manager,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you can build the and or blocks, and you can choose a condition and choose a value for how that condition gets. Okay, so that's how Pop-Up Maker's condition editor works, and I've reused that now in multiple plugins. I've even open sourced it, which you can link to later, maybe in this. Um, and that JavaScript form API is basically plug and play. You can slap it in anywhere you want to use it now, and it basically allows you to do and or condition grouping, and then it allows you. There's an API to program in as many conditions as you want. So Pop-Up Maker, for instance, has conditions that target all pages or a single page or pages with a specific parent or posts with a specific tag or a specific index page or users with XYZ criteria. We're actually bringing WooCommerce functionality to the targeting conditions. I'm actually working on that now. So that's things like show this pop up or Ahoy message if the user has product X, Y, and Z in the cart, which we already have this for EDD as I've shown you. So the ability to target on a very specific scale, almost more powerful than even Mailchimp or something's condition editor, as long as you're feeding it the right information. And it basically allows you to target all of your content that's going to be blocked or whatever in that one condition editor, if that makes sense, rather than having
Mhm.
to go to all the individual pages and stuff.
Sure.
So that's a really simple one. Hasn't really taken off. Maybe 2,000 active installs, not big. And then I guess we have a forum plugin, which we're going to be spending all of July polishing. And this is essentially a replacement for BB Press is our goal. Um, with the thought in mind that BB Press feels and looks antiquated. I mean, you can change the way it looks, but it still works in a very antiquated way. So we're basically building a ground up forum solution that's built around the REST API and completely Ajax. So essentially what that means is you could set it up to work just like BBPress with pagination and, change pages or refresh every time you reply, or you could set it up more like Discourse or Slack, where every thread or every topic is a live chat because every time you reply or every 10 seconds, it's rolling in the newest conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so essentially, it's very flexible in what it can do, and out of the box, it'll be able to do most of that. Now, this is going to be a premium only product, but I think it's for anybody who's using BBPress. Once we work out feature parity, by that I mean there's 101 add-ons for BBPress that we've got to take into consideration that big sites might be using, like the support one, to be able to make a topic a support ticket,
Mm-hmm.
and have mark the status of resolved. So before we can get people migrated over, we're going to have to kind of match a lot of those. But that's the goal, is to get the base out in July. And then Ahoy obviously is the big ticket one now. And funny enough, we've actually already had offers on Ahoy to buy it outright,
Wow.
which we're not interested in right now, obviously. Um, but I see a lot of momentum there. I got a lot of great feedback at WordCamp US, and Caleb and I have both, spent the last few months focused heavily on our own bread and butter plugins. His Ultimate Member needed a huge update, and Pop-Up Maker needed huge updates, specifically for GDPR. Um, so, we've both gone through the GDPR nightmare for the last few months and are finally recouping from that. And we're getting back into Ahoy, which is really good. I think Ahoy is going to be a competitor inside of the WordPress space for now, but we are planning on moving it to a SaaS solution that's heavily tied to WordPress. Um, and this one is if you've used Intercom or the Facebook Messenger app on your site, or I'm trying to think of other examples. Drift.io is another one that some people have been using. These are all SaaS solutions that essentially insert direct-to-user messaging on a targeted basis to your users as they browse your site, mainly focused on converting them to a specific action or goal. So just to give you a couple examples of what you might use it for, you might show only people who have added a single product to cart. You might show them the next time they load a page, or as soon as they click the add to cart button, that, hey, did you know this product is available in a bundle? It's, only a little bit more money. And from there, they can either click immediately to upgrade to the bundle. You could even offer them an incentive to upgrade now with the discount code. And these are all things that we've kind of put the forethought into with EDD and now reporting to WooCommerce. But it allows you to, I guess the simplest way is to boil it down to it's extremely targeted messaging direct to the user right when it matters most. So if they're getting to the bottom of a blog post, you could hit them with a, hey, you haven't ever left you've never left a comment on our site. Would you like to leave a comment today if you like this post? And it just prompts them to go down to the comment form. So there's 1,001 uses for this. It really depends on what your goals are, and we're building. That's something we're going to be focused on really shortly. Here is building a lot more goal-driven content on the Ahoy site. If this is your goal, what methods do we suggest? What kind of conditions do we suggest using? But it's essentially very similar to Pop-Up Maker. It does have all of the targeting capabilities and a lot more, but it's focused less on options and more on choices. Uh, we took that into account very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate I did 100% of the development on this, but Calum drove the boat on this one. He came in from the non-developer perspective, which is something I wasn't used to up until recently, and I think that drove us to eliminate a lot of unnecessary clutter in the settings, if that makes sense. Remove settings that weren't necessarily needed to derive the desired outcome, and maybe eliminate some of the choice that is there, so we don't allow a lot of flexibility and what you can make it look like, because we want it to be not necessarily standardized, but we want it to be successful, right? And I think OptinMonster has shown how this works. They give you a predefined number of templates, and then they let you customize it if you want to, right? But the predefined templates are what they're going to guarantee are going to work for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the same path here. We want something that drives results, and we've already proven that's the case. This one I think has the gumption to go all the way, a lot further than Pop-Up Maker can. And I think that because we're proving it, anybody who's using it already knows what the ROI on the product is right in their dashboard. And what we've done, just to give you an example, we track everything from the time you add a product to cart through our messaging to the time you check out. And if you checked out due to one of our messages, we attribute a value to that message. So, for instance, if you had a $10 item in cart and you clicked one of our messages to go to a $40 item, well, then that message gets an attributed value of $30 because it just increased the cart total of $30. And when you go into the analytics, it puts a nice line graph of how much extra money, added revenue this message is generating for you. So it's not even telling you, hey, you generated $200 in sales. It's telling you generated $200 in extra sales that you weren't before.
Mm.
So that alone has already gotten us two people who have begged us to start an affiliate program. I'm not going to name drop, but one of them I met at WordCamp US last year and spent 30 minutes demoing what it could do, how we were already using it for cart abandonment, for instance, exit intent on the cart page, offering a one-click, instantly applied 20% discount or whatever it is. And he waited a few months. He finally purchased, I think, in late March, middle March, and he reached out to me at the end of April and said, I wish I had bought this as soon as I got home. He said, in the month and a half we've been running it, we've already generated $28,000 in additional revenue. And he
Wow.
says, and it's a noticeable. I can see the spike on our own internal and Google Analytics and revenue. This is a noticeable improvement. Obviously, he runs a much larger store than I do, but I've seen, even with Pop Up Maker, I've seen between $2,000 and $3,000 in additional revenue every month just from running cart abandonment and product upsells. So, if that's the case, then it can potentially be a 20 to 30% boost on someone's revenue. And the best benefit is there's no GDPR compliance needed. There's no emails getting sent out after. You don't need third-party services. And even better, if you do want to still use cart abandonment recovery like Jilt or Cart Hook or something like that, it works in tandem. This is an on-site option to reduce cart abandonment, whereas they're the off-site after they've already left. Once they've left, the messaging does nothing. So that's where the emails take over. So
Mm.
I think Ahoy has a lot of potential. Just in terms of just the e-commerce benefits it can provide any store. Every store can benefit from an exit intent cart abandonment offer. I dare you to find a store that wouldn't see added revenue in that sense, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And I doubt you'll find anybody arguing that you would. So to have a plugin now that offers what you normally pay a monthly fee for to a SaaS service like Intercom.io, I know some people who are paying Intercom $9.99 a month to run their services across their entire platform. Which, I mean, that's not a lot if you're running a $100,000 a month business, but if you're running a $10,000 a month business, you can't afford that, right? So, and I'm talking about $999, not $10 a month,
Yeah.
right? Just to clarify that. So our product is priced, you know, for a steal right now. Honestly, the prices will go up as we get the more features out there and move towards a SaaS solution. But you can, for $240 right now, you can increase your bottom line by more than that in the first week. If you're running if your store is already at scale and you're already generating a lot of money on your store, then slapping in a $200 plugin that's going to guarantee you more sales, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that's why I think we've already gotten offers on it, is because the marketing, once we put a little bit more effort into outreach and building the blog out a little bit more, I think the marketing doesn't need to sell itself. Or we don't need a lot of marketing. The product sells itself. Once you've installed it, you're going to be telling people about it because it's instant results, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's thousands of small use cases that you use it for. Like I said, promoting more comments, getting people to your Facebook group. So,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. I wonder, like, you made me think of the how your product works and how it allows a number of use cases. So, like, some products open the door for a myriad of use cases. Some of yours already kind of kind of do. Like Pop-Up Maker and Ahoy can, like, kind of the sky's the limit. There's so many things that can be done, and from one customer to another customer, there could be overlap, or there could be very little overlap in what
Right.
they're trying to accomplish. But with some other products, maybe that's not the case. The use cases are very
Limited,
few.
finite.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, your restaurant recipe plugin, for example, is it like a small one where, like, there's a high likelihood of, like, every user overlaps.
I built that one on the back of looking at EDD's code extensively. That was, after I'd spent quite a bit of time learning how EDD was built, and I fell in love. And Pop-Up Maker even was developed in a similar sense to EDD, just in the extensibility of where hooks and filters were placed and what could be done to extend things from an outside perspective or to integrate with third party options. So I recipe maker, for instance, you change a couple labels and now you're running a bar. Now you've got the recipe manager for your back bar, or policies and procedures for a corporation, just with
Sure.
a few label changes. Because I mean, it was built to create stepped procedural things. I mean, yes, we named it recipe manager, but recipes are
Mhm.
a procedural organization of information, right? So
Yeah.
that's the same as corporate policy and procedure. That's the same as, training classes for chefs. So there's 1,001 uses for that one too. I mean, I guess I have a hard time developing limited scope plugins. Yeah, user menus might be on target there.
Yeah.
That one's pretty scoped, and as you said, there's not very many people who are coming back saying it doesn't fit my needs.
Yeah, there's something that, like, I've been trying to wrap my head around a little bit, and I've observed it in some products where um, this in either direction can cause a problem. Like, some products, on one hand, are serving a select use case or a select set of use cases very, very well, and if anybody is trying exactly that, then their product is a no-brainer. Like, solves
Right.
the problem to a T. If you're trying to do anything else, it's useless to you.
I think Optin Monster is probably a prime example of that. Optin Monster. I mean, I know Syed sees me as a competitor, but I personally don't see it that way, and I send him customers all the time.
Yeah.
I've actually refunded quite a few bundle people who were really focused on just opt-ins and didn't really need everything else. I'm like, here's your $200 back. Go buy Opt-in Monster. They're gonna crush it for you. So if in those cases there are better suited, plugins or solutions for what they need, and that's my goal, is to provide them with the best solution, not always to take their money. I mean, that's probably not great for business, but it's just personal philosophy.
Sure. Yeah. Some things are like that. And I think sometimes that's really, really great when products have this narrow focus, and it can be a lot easier to sell the product. Your marketing can be just, like, so much more targeted, and it's easier to deliver value to your audience because you can understand what they're all trying to do and guide them towards that, hold their hand along the way, make it easy. And that's super cool.
Yeah.
And maybe, like, your downside, the danger is that you are tied to the demand for that particular use case,
Hmm.
which means, like, if that, like, declines in popularity, then, like, all of your business goes away very quickly. If anybody's, like, building their business on top of a plugin that gives you homepage sliders, for example, or some other thing that is kind of like a
Niche. Yeah.
trend. It was
Yeah.
popular for a time. It rose and fell.
Oh, the death of the slider. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. The best example off the top of my head, but certainly not the
Oh,
only one that, like,
perfect, right?
had its day. Okay.
Yeah. We all went through that phase. Slider, 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 slider. Every page. Yep. Yep.
Oh no. But some products are, like, really great about that, and I think that's the main danger is their the potential for, like, that specific use case to decline in popularity. Whereas other products you can, like, the sky is kind of the limit, is a cliche,
Flexibility, right?
and there is a
Extendability
lot
and
of flexibility.
flexibility.
You use your imagination, and that is like a double-edged sword at the same
It
time.
is.
It really is,
Yeah.
because it's awesome to say that people can do anything with it. What can I do? Yes, you can do that too. That's super cool, but it provide example.
Installs. It's probably not going to be opt-ins. It's probably going to be more. I needed to set up a contact form that shows up when you click a menu item on every page, right? I don't want them going to a specific page. Uh,
Wow.
right.
Okay.
Well, that was the number one use for Easy Modal. So we knew going in that that was going to be the primary use was form overlays, which is why we spent an inordinate amount of time integrating directly with Gravity Forms, Ninja Forms, Contact Form 7, Caldera Forms, to allow things like setting a cookie on close, closing the pop-up automatically after 3 seconds, so after the finish of submitting the form. But we knew that's where we were heading with it. We technically don't want to be a form builder. I have no ambition to build another form plugin. But it seems more and more likely that that's the direction we're heading, just because we are starting to take part of the opt-in market. And as that was evidenced by, just how many people were chiming in for wanting to use our paid only subscription forms, which we just released the subscription forms for free recently. And we're already getting massive feedback on what it doesn't do, right? So it's I can already see us moving into the realm of at least limited scope form builder, and then essentially I'd prefer if they need something more powerful, and we do this all the time. Oh, it doesn't suit your needs. Well, Ninja Forms and Gravity Forms, they do suit your needs. Yeah, and if you've already spent money on this, we'll get you a discount, or we'll give you your money back, and go talk to those guys. They're going to nail it for you, and it works right out of the box with our built-in feature set, right? So you get all the benefits of the Pop-Up Maker Ninja Forms integrations right out of the box, with all of the power Ninja Forms can offer with their flexibility. So, I don't want to get into any of those markets, and it just seems to keep happening, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
you're back to the marketing side of it. You're absolutely right. When you go that open-ended thing, I can't market like Opt-in Monster like Opt-in Monster can. I can't market like some of these other guys can. Uh, to list what my plugin can do would be this list that's just way too long to put on WordPress.org. There is no master list of what this plugin can do, because it's infinitely possible of what you can do with it. Every time I think we've ran out of new use case scenarios, some user comes along with some crazy off the wall thing, and I'm like, I never thought about that, but I could see that catching on. And it's like, and it happens once or twice a month, and it's amazing, but I don't see any way around it. You do kind of have to pick, and I think you get benefits to both sides. If you, I will say Ahoy is probably a mix. With Ahoy, we wanted to limit the scope of what it was for and what it could do. Uh, but obviously we didn't limit it enough, because there's still 1,000 use cases for what you can do with it, but in a scoped way, right? I mean, it's a controllable scoped way. You're only going to do so many different call to actions, for instance. You're only going to do so many different targeting combination, or targeting is probably where your flexibility is going to come in there. The call to actions, what they're actually prompting the user to do, is going to be limited based on, what are the things they have going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they're either driving them to click a link, they're driving them to submit a form, they're driving them to make a purchase. So in that sense, we get to keep it limited in scope, where Pop-Up Maker has 1,000 possible uses. Are you having them register a form? Are you having them log in? Are you having them agree to your terms and conditions before they can view the page? I mean, there's too many to count for that. So we've honestly stopped trying. And we're growth now is almost entirely community based. I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10,000, based on Freemius's estimate, to 8 to 10,000 new active installs a month, which
Wow.
is, yeah, it's a huge number. We should be ticking over that 300,000 mark any day now.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, so I'm less focused on features at this point, and more focused on stability, long-term manageability. I'd like to be able to hire somebody to sit on this one by themselves and not need 10 guys to support it and to write docs and keep up with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we're almost to that point. Whereas this time last year, I couldn't have even done active development every day unless I hired somebody to manage support full time. And that is, luckily that actually worked out, that we released a new update middle of this last year, and right about the time that my full-time support guy was leaving, he went to go play golf professionally, so that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, he wanted to be outside more, so couldn't blame him there. We were stuck behind a computer all day every day. And about that time, we just managed to push an update, and I was stuck with a lot of the support load for the next 6 months, which really slowed things down. I mean, if you can imagine trying to answer 20, 30 support tickets every day, and do active development and manage the business and make sure vendors are all paid and money's moved where it needs to be. Yeah, so it's not a fun process. And it's something I definitely recommend looking into early on, is developing with specific goals in mind, if that makes sense. At this point, my goal is reduce support, reduce management, reduce requests for new things, right? So I mean, we're trying to rapidly meet all of the requests from the last year in a short amount of time, and hopefully, stop the flow of new ones.
Yeah. That sounds
Yeah,
like a good position to be in, though. I mean, to a certain extent, like it's a privilege to even be able
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
turn
To be,
inward and like start to focus on like process optimization and support reduction and stuff. Like, that's I mean, a lot of businesses are just fighting for more
yeah,
customers and more revenue and keeping their head above water. And if you're in that position where you're like, I want to polish a little bit, I want to make this machine run a little bit more smoothly, and
yeah.
that's good. That's a privilege.
Polish is great, if you have the income to afford it. Recipe Maker is a prime example, or the recipe plugin I did, Recipe Manager, not Maker. It's very polished. I mean, I spent months polishing it. So much so that it's not going to make any money. Yeah,
Whoops.
yeah, I spent. I mean, I hired Michelle Schulp to design layouts so that it would look good in any theme right out of the box. I mean, we've actually had the screenshots from the initial launch picked up and posted in half a dozen articles about how good this plugin looks out of the box. And, that's great, but nobody's using it. So, that didn't work out well. But that's
Uh,
me. Active development's a must, right? I mean, you have to be rolling out updates at least often enough that they can see them. If not, they tend to not use it. So, I know that's the Achilles heel on the recipe plugin. So that's not a problem. That's just, there's a solution for that. Get away from pop-up maker more, hint hint, which is what I'm working towards,
yeah.
and have more time for other things. So there's processes to get that direction, and you're right, it is nice to be, I guess, in year three or four, and having already implemented so many other things that just took so much time and effort and energy to get out there and to manipulate our products into that, like recurring payments. And man, every one of those processes that we've implemented, though, has taken just that much more stress, that much more daily workload off of us, which is it's fantastic. I mean, I can't wait to see. I like to think of I'm working towards support zero. That day where you wake up and there are no support tickets in the inbox. I know it's never coming for this particular plugin for Pop-Up Maker, just simply because the even scale aside, there's just so many possible options and use cases that we're not looking at them all. We haven't solved them all. We don't have code samples in our documentation accurately aligning how to do those things, so they're going to keep coming. But that's the other part, is that the only person I have right now on staff, besides myself, is a full-time doc writer. He's been a blessing over the last. He did support for 6 months, and then I realized, man, he's been writing small little pieces of documentation, and those have been hugely helpful. And every time he writes one, we see a few less tickets every month. So for the last 4 months, that's all he's done, and our documentation is blown up. It's probably 5 times as big as it was before. But at the same time, I'm getting a lot less tickets, and I can see that people are getting answers right away. So now I just need to get more people into the documentation.
Mm.
So that's where we're at now. But we've done a lot of work in that field too. So there's actually an in-dash help and support page in Pop-Up Maker. We skirt the guidelines on WordPress.org, and I made sure that we did everything in the right side of skirting those guidelines. To actually, we load a secure iframe in the help and support page that loads a Beaver Builder controlled solo site. There's nothing on this site except for that one page. And it's basically a dashboard support page where I can go in there and, without having to update the plugin, manipulate and say, here's our most common support topics. Here's a support form that actually, just like your support form, where it asks all the right questions and gets the right information based on what they're having problems with. So we can put that right in their field of view. Something I'm working on recently in those lines of reducing support. And once I figure out how to do this properly, I'm going to probably push out some stuff for the greater WordPress community. It's a plugin or a piece of code, a software called. I'm looking it up real quick just to make sure I know the right name here. I think it's called Twine.
Hmm. Hmm.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Lose you for a second.
I think, yeah, I think my computer stole my Bluetooth. As soon as I
Whoops.
turned it on. Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah. Twinery.org.
Okay.
Um, so what this is it's a little out of the box thinking on my part, I guess. Took me a while to find something that even did this, and if I hadn't found this, I was already intent on building something anyway. I'm tired of dealing with this, and I think this would be a huge tool. But I don't know if you remember if you're a Windows guy or if you've always been a Mac guy. Um, 10 years ago, if you ever had a Windows problem and you had to go to Google and it came up with the Microsoft the KB for Microsoft, it
Yeah.
had the self help wizard. You know, what best describes your problem today? Oh, I can't connect to the internet. I try this. Did that help? Yes or no. Try this. Did that help? Yes or no.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
these procedural Q and A's, right? So what Twine is Twine is a it's an open source tool for telling, as it describes it, interactive nonlinear stories. So if you've ever done one of those text based stories where you like have to get to the end of the page and it's like, do you go left and follow John to town or do you go right into the scary building, right? And it's
Right.
so
Choose your own adventure. Yeah.
right, yeah. So I'm trying to manipulate this to my advantage here and basically build automated support self help tools, which I will then insert into our WordPress pages everywhere so that prevent them from submitting support tickets. In order to get to the support ticket form, you're going to have to go through this nightmarishly simple thing. No, I don't want to block people from getting it, but I do want to impede them a little bit, just like the documentation search field that you have to fill out for EDD or pop-up maker at this point in order to even get to the next form fields, right? So I do
Exactly.
want to impede them, and I want to force them into a funnel of help themselves, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I've already kind of built one for one of our most complex systems in pop-up maker is the click trigger capabilities. The reason for that is yeah, I can come up with one great method, but that method across all of the infinite complexities of WordPress is not going to allow you to target every element on your site in an easy way. To give you an example, if you're using a page builder, they might give you the option to add a class to a button. Whereas if you're using Visual Composer, you can't add a class, but you can add a link, right? Um, or if you want to make your pop-up open on a menu icon or on a menu item, or if you want to open it on the logo, which is controlled by the theme, and there's no options to edit it or add a class or add a link or anything like that. So we have to have I think there's 6 different methods at this point, not including like your manual JavaScript methods to trigger a pop-up in an automated fashion. You can add a specific class to an element. You can add a specific link to an element that's unique to each pop-up, and that'll link that element to that pop-up. When you click it, it'll open it. You can target elements based on their CSS selectors. If you can't edit an element, it's a powerful way, but that's a really confusing method that people just don't get if they don't understand CSS at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not our go-to method. So we have half a dozen methods, and we try to add in automated methods. We even have a click selector generation tool, like in our admin toolbar functionality. Like if you go to your front page and there's a tool thing there to get a click selector, and you click it, it says the next thing you click on will generate a selector for that. You click on something that gives you some convoluted long div, EQ1 div P1. Yeah. So it gives them some selector that it gives them some semblance of being able to target a specific element.
Yeah.
Um, and we've built those tools as best we can without going crazy with trying to do selector parsing. I'm not even getting into that. But the one of these interactive stories I built recently was for that specifically. I haven't implemented it yet. We're still testing it to make sure it solves all the needs. But essentially, it comes in and says, what kind of an element are you gonna, what kind of element do you want to make a click trigger for your pop up? And if they say, if they say these are if they say, I'm using a page builder, then we'll link them off to the most common methods that'll be used for a page builder in order of which one. And then when they click one of those methods, it'll take them to the 1, 2, 3s of how to implement that specific method. And then at the end of that, it'll say, did this help you? If not, start over or submit a support ticket. And that's kind of where we're heading. Is I'm trying to provide excellent support. Obviously, Pop-Up Maker is as highly ranked as it is because of its reviews, and I attribute that to really good customer service. The first 600 plus were pre-automated review requests, if that makes sense. So those were all manually me closing a support ticket and saying, hey, I'm glad I could help you out. Would you mind taking a moment to rate and review the plugin to spread the word to others, right? Help us spread the word. And that's a hugely intense process to get 600 reviews. So once we implemented automation, and that now we've got almost 2,200 reviews, right? So, and almost all of them 5-star. But that's still support. We're still providing timely support, just like EDD. We have people looking. I had people looking at support every day, all day, but now it's just me, and I check in 3-4 times a day still. But I'm trying to eliminate the need for somebody to sit there all day and look at it. It should be something that can come in. I'm looking towards moving to the point where I can have one person answering pre-sale and basic questions for multiple products and still manage a business. Now, I mean, I'm all for hiring people. I like people working with people, but I'd rather have them working as developers or salespeople, outreach, find new customers, or marketing experts, or any number of things other than support, right? That's the one place where I get no return on income or return on investment. So that is the one place where it's killing us, and we need to reduce it. And I think that's probably going to be any plugin's nightmare going forward. Is even if you're starting today, support a year from now is going to be your most critical component.
Right.
So foresight and great tools, right? So I think you guys led the way in some of that with how you innovated with your support form and requiring the doc search. Fantastic feature. I've implemented that across the board everywhere. We make everybody search. So even in our in-dash help and support, if you go to submit a support form, it's certain makes you search off to the Help Scout API and pulls up some documentation. I think that saves us, especially combined with having a full-time doc writer writing every day, probably eliminates most of what we've seen in the drastic drop. But I think last year we were somewhere in the range of 35 to 40 tickets a day had to have somebody touch them. At least one response, if not multiple. And that's rolling in Help Scout and the free support forums, which funny enough, since we've implemented great support tools in Dash and on our site, we get like 1 to 4 tickets a week on WordPress.org. Most of the people just go straight to our own private support forums, which is kind of nice because it gives us a lot of extra tools and flexibility in how we serve them. Whereas WordPress.org, you're limited. You can only get a URL sometimes. I can't ask any other feeler questions. You can't support premium products or, to that extent. So there's a lot of limitations there that we can get around on our own private support ticket systems, plus better tracking and issue management over the long term. So yeah, we've gone from about 35 to 40 a day that needed to touch hands to 15 maybe.
Wow.
And honestly, that includes, like I said, WordPress.org. That's probably maybe one a day that needs to be handled. 10, 15, or 10 to 12 in Help Scout, and another 4 or 5 people that I need to communicate with throughout the day on Facebook. That is a live chat mechanism. So we do try to keep up with that. I will say the Facebook thing though, if you ever do push updates and you're worried about issues or bugs or patches that need to go out quickly, Facebook's a great place to push everybody. Live chat, getting debug information immediately without having to wait for an email back and forth. And then, of course, once you email them, they go back to the bottom of the queue, even if they respond immediately. So now you got to go through 30 more tickets in a crisis situation like that before you get the information that would solve the crisis to begin with. So yeah, I mean, we've learned a lot about how to support people this last year, and I think that's probably what's going to drive a lot of our business the next year is both reduction and how much money and time we're spending in that, which obviously leads to more production time. More time to market, more time to manage the business, more time to find people to hire because I don't even have time to do that at this point. I would love to hire somebody for support if I could find somebody who knew our products and could do the job without 6 months of training. And that brings me back to another one on support reduction. We're actually building an entire suite of tools to help train our support members. So I have like a multi-site right now set up with pretty much every common issue that we see in support. Every time I see a new common issue, I fire up a new site in the multi-site and set that issue up so that I can have somebody go there, see the issue, debug it, find the solution, right? But we already know the solution because we can look at it and at an instant I know it's an issue. Their theme is overloading jQuery or doing one of a number of dozens of other common issues that we can predict and prevent.
Wow.
And we're also trying to build in automated tools in the plugins too, which is actually quite nice. There's most people don't even know this, but if you enable debug mode in Pop-Up Maker, there's an entire JavaScript API that outputs everything you need to know about what's happening, what settings were used, what pop-ups doing what, in the console of the browser, right? Nobody even knows that's there. We push people to it, but it's more for me to use when I go to support them and do things a lot simpler. Other things we have common issues that we see, things are like they have the same form, Ninja forms or Gravity forms. They're all guilty of this. You can't insert form number one on the page and in the pop up on the same page. Like it can only be there once. Otherwise, their JavaScript goes nuts and doesn't know which form is submitting and doesn't pull the reply back to the right place or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually built a tool that automatically detects every time you click the button, and then I'm trying to build tools where it's like a bookmark. Like you click it and it says, "Oh, there's a form in your pop-up that also exists on the page somewhere else," right? So I mean, it kind of self-diagnoses things with like a little one-click button. You run it on your site, and boom, we told you, "Hey, all these problems exist," and you're like, "Oh, well, crap. Okay, that's easy enough."
Sure.
So these are situations I see every day. But again, you can't do this on day one because you don't know what these common issues are going to be. So these are tools that are really built for the second and third years. But man, once you get to that point, support is the nightmare. That's the only I wake up every morning dreading opening Help Scout, dreading checking my email. How many do I have to deal with today? And it's not even that I hate doing the support. It's just that some days it takes up all of my development time, and I want to move. I'm a product guy. I like to move products forward. I want to see new features. I want to see closing of bugs. So we're doing everything we can in that sense, and then that's spilled over into product development in the latest few versions as well, which is quite nice.
That's good. Hey, we're
A little over.
yeah, a little over time. So I'm gonna hit you with the last couple questions, Daniel.
So rapid
First,
fire.
yeah, like where are people gonna bump into in person like within the next, year or so? What's on your calendar?
Uh, I am planning to go to pretty much all of the rest of the Florida Word Camps this year. So we got one coming up in September, one in November, and then of course WordCamp US. A buddy's trying to talk me into maybe doing one or two of the ones in Georgia or North Carolina between now and then. But I pretty much Twitter, man.
Yeah.
If you want, the thing is, I'm always around. I'm not very vocal. I hate putting my opinions out there. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to alienate somebody somewhere, and that's just not inclusionist, is it? So yeah, I'm timid to constantly be one of those people on Twitter who says everything that's on their minds. And I follow a lot of them, and sometimes I love what they say, and other times I'm just like, I wish I didn't know you. But that's part of the game. So I'll let my wife be the political one for now. She's doing a great job of that.
Right on. That's cool. Do you have any good suggestions of people I should get on the show in the future?
Um, yeah, Caleb, my partner, would be a great person, especially when it comes to the decision making of what options should be available to the user in designing a nice interface. And kind of because I believe that he was the driving force in user menus, not being a literal zero support plugin. Um, it was his insight into users aren't going to understand that right away. How do we do a better job, right? So. Um, Finding somebody like that you can bounce ideas off of all the time would be great for anybody. So yeah, I can put you in touch with him. That'd be awesome.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's about time to wrap up and go have some dinner, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel, for your time. It's been an awesome conversation, and I'll bump into you again soon.
You too, Kyle. Let me know if you're coming to Florida. We'll get together. If you're gonna be in the heat, you might as well be in Florida by the beach, right? I mean, I'm 20 minutes from the beach, so
Oh, nice. Yeah. What part of Florida again?
just south of St. Augustine.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a part of the county. It's another part of the state I want you to visit yet. You know, my wife is running for county commission, so we can fix those parts. But I would welcome you to stay in any of our surrounding. No, I mean, honestly, I take that back. We're trying to fix it here, so I welcome you to stay here. There's a lot of great stuff here. We have some of the oldest diners in Florida. You know, some of we're the bass capital of the world. So we have a lot going for us. There's just like everywhere, mismanagement and misappropriation and no lack of responsibility, if that makes sense, accountability. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, but we'd love to have you down, man. We can make a whole week out of that. That'd be
That'd
fun.
be
Yeah,
quite a treat. Thank you.
yeah, man. Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks for hopping on with me. Appreciate it,
yeah.
Daniel.
I appreciate it. Anytime.